Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio /The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, and alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And thank you for not saying
what's up, everybody.
Anyways, let's talk today about how bright the Phoenix Suns' future is. Devin Booker dropping 70 points. It was unreal. It was unreal in the midst of March Madness. Devin Booker dropping 70 points. It was ridiculous. We're also talking about, can the Boston Celtics become the number one seed in the East, overcoming the Cavs? Only one game back right now. And then we're also going to be talking about, should we care about the NBA season if the players don't? Kind of talking about the rest that the players have been taking and kind of taking days off and this whole spiel that's going on in the NBA. But let's jump into the Phoenix Suns because, man, that was an unreal performance from Devin Booker. Shot over 50% from the field, went to the line 26 times, put up 70 points, the most since Kobe put up 81. Let's talk a little bit about Devin Booker first and just what he did. I mean, that was unreal, Dave. It was unreal what Devin Booker did. You couldn't stop him.
And, the funny thing is, this was against the Celtics. This is a team known for their defensive capabilities. And
he jumped on Marcus Smart, too.
Marcus Smart over Jay. Over everybody they had. They couldn't stop him. And the funny thing is, there was some stuff after the game that kind of made it sound like the Celtics, even though they won the game, a little bit sore about that 70 points.
Yeah,
it was sore.
It was unreal. I mean, you remember watching Kobe drop that 81,
yes,
right?
Yes, I do.
Lord.
I do.
What do you think's more impressive, Kobe dropping 81 like he did, or Devin Booker doing this at 20 years old?
I'm going to go with Kobe dropping 81 because it's one of the things with me. Like I said to Dave, because we were at the Bulls-Sixers game last
Shameless
night.
plug.
So it was one of those things where I even mentioned to him as we're walking out, like, do we now say that, he's one of the greats? Because, like, you list all these, like, legends, like Wilt, Kobe, Elgin Baylor, and it's like, and Devin Booker have now scored at least 70
interesting
points.
company.
Everyone's like, and that's not all of them, but it's like you get all these big names, and then at the end of the tweet, and now Devin Booker.
That's the thing. He's either going to become a legend, and that's going to be looking like a proper list.
Is he going to be a legend? No, I'm saying, I know it's hard to say he is.
No, what I'm saying is either he's going to become a legend and be appropriately in that list, or he's going to be a weird fun fact. Yeah. Like how many Hall of Fame? There's 7 Hall of Famers that scored over 70 points, and there's one Devin Booker. So like it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. He's only 20. That's unreal. He's not even
he could be a junior in college right now.
Yeah, I think he turns 21 in what's it called in October. So next season he'll be 21.
Couldn't even go out to a bar to celebrate.
I bet he celebrated.
I bet he did as well. But to me, the most important, impressive thing I'll say from this stat line, from this game, is like you mentioned. I looked at the foul numbers and I went 24 of 26 from the line. That's just because I was expecting, 70 points. He probably had a phenomenal day from beyond the arc, Steph Curry style. He only went 4 of 11.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, he was actually getting to the line, getting 24 points from the line. Then 21 of 40 from the field. And there was the one clip, Dave, we were watching it beforehand, where right before a timeout, he just shoots it and drains it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, when you got it going, you got it going.
Well, he got fouled on one where he got fouled on a foul call that was called on the ground, and he shoots it anyways and drains it. And then a timeout was called and shoots it on the Celtics net with Jay in his face. And
just because.
I mean, it's unreal what the kid's doing. And looking at his stat line so far, the one thing that really sticks out to me is, yes, he's shooting 42% from the field. Yes, he's shooting 36% from three. He's averaging 21 a night, but he doesn't have a per that hits 15. I think it's at 13.65 right now. Him not having a 15 per, it's weird because usually 15 means you're an average NBA player. So, at least to the per, he's a below average player. What is it about Devin Booker that you are excited for about his future specifically? Because obviously he can put up points and numbers. He's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Do you think that he has enough tool sets outside of the scoring to make this a long NBA career where he's becoming a multiple All-Star?
See, that's a tough question because, like Ricky, I kind of want to lean towards the cautious side and be like, this might just be a weird footnote kind of a thing that he did. But he legit could be a piece to build on. I think him on this team is fantastic. It's a great young team, good core to build around. So I think with Devin Booker, the upside is, he's a scoring monster. And if you have one of those on your team, you don't ever have to worry about, going shot for shot with another team because you can default to go and just run the offense through Devin. You'll be fine. My concern is, how well he can round out the rest of his game. Not super positive on
and
that.
I feel like we're leaning more towards the Phoenix Suns topic now of, can the players around him help him create his shots? I mean, do you think that Devin Booker at least can be the focal point of the Suns, or do you think that it might need to be somebody else, like someone who can have the ball in their hands consistently and create for their teammates? Because while Devin Booker's a fantastic scorer, and he did have, I think, 6 assists last night, do you think that he can become a player that can be, more of a guy that can run the offense, or do you think he's more of that scorer? Do you think he can
I think he's a scorer.
Do you think he's only a scorer, or do you think he could develop into that in the guard?
Not only a scorer, but like when Dave says, how does he round out the rest of his game? There are pieces on this Suns team already that gives me hope. Because the one thing you got to think of, in college, Devin Booker never had to be the guy that we saw in the 70-point game. In his only season in college, he had Karl Anthony Towns. I hear that dude is pretty good.
He's okay.
I hear he's a pretty good player. He had the Harrison twins and Willie Cauley-Stein. Oh, and then Trey Lyles and Dakari Johnson were also on that team. Tyler Ulis
don't
was a
forget his
bench
best friend
player
ever
in that game. And this was, like, at Kentucky, he never had to be the focal point. They had an entire group of starting 5 that could do it each and every night. And now I look at this team, and he's got Tyler Ulis next to him. Tyler Ulis can score, but he can be more of the facilitator. Devin Booker can be your scorer. If Chris can give me some more things down low, kind of build on what he's doing this year, those are my 3 main pieces. And I know TJ Warren's there. I'll be honest. I go for a shooting guard, or small forward, in this draft. If you're number 3, you kind of get your pick between Tatum and Jackson, who we talked last week. Get another young guy in there. And then basically after that, it's how is Bender going to fit in when he's over here? And then in the center.
He's already here. He's just hurt.
I mean, how he's going to play when he's actually on the court, when he's actually contributing to this team consistently. The only hole for me is at the center, is Alex Len. Because to me, I don't think Alex Len is the long-term solution at center. But at center, you're not really going, man, I wish we had one of those top 10 centers.
But then again, if you have Bender and Chris, those guys are tall enough. If you do want to roll with those young guys and they're both playing at their peak,
would you really roll them 4 or 5 consistently,
you could slide Chris over and have him play the center, and then have Bender play. And then have Bender play power forward. So
I'm just saying you would probably go out and get a guy who can be just your center, but you would have a great core with Booker, Ulis, Chris, and the small forward.
When you have those 2 guys, and Chris and Bender, 2 guys that were top 10 picks, Bender going 4th and Chris going 8, you expect those guys to be starters for you. And if you're going to be starters, you're going to have to play maybe out of your position if you're Marquise Chris. I mean, he's having a great season, and you've been seeing some spurts from there. I mean, I'd probably put him like 4th in the NBA Rookie of the Year.
I was going to say, in his last 10 games, he's putting up almost 14 points a game, 7 boards. And you like what you see out of him. He's getting some more minutes now that the Suns have decided to go and embrace the full-on tank and bench players like Tyson Chandler, like Brandon Knight. Obviously different reasons.
Bledsoe.
But Bledsoe getting less time, So, I mean, honestly, across the board, I like that they're kind of forcing this young core to play together and, see how well they can gel at the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's the thing I want to bring up is obviously, I think it was 2 days ago, before the Celtics game, the Suns had the youngest starting 5 in NBA history. They started Tyler Ulis, Derek Jones, who was in the dunk contest, Devin Booker, Marquise Chris, and Alex Len. It was an average of 21 years and 14 days, and it was younger than 7 of the 8 teams that played in the Sweet 16 that night. So that's unreal that they're such a youthful team, and obviously, they're not having a fantastic season. This Devin Booker 70-point performance is the biggest highlight of their season.
Absolutely.
But you do have all the pieces that Ricky mentioned. I mean, you obviously have the top pick, or at least top 5 pick right now in the NBA draft. If the lottery falls out the way that all the percentages are leaning, and right now, you have Bledsoe, who and you have Knight. I think Knight's locked up till 2020. I'm not entirely sure on Bledsoe's contract right now, but he's only 27 years old. Knight's still young, so that point guard situation, especially with Ulis behind him, I mean, I think your point guard's pretty set. Shooting guard, some kid named Devin Booker. Heard he's okay.
He's all right.
Obviously, we're talking about, is his game limited to just being a scorer? But if it is just limited to be a scorer, I'll take the 21 points per game that he's putting up. I mean, that's not that bad. And then obviously the small forward position, TJ Warren, more of a scorer off the bench. I agree with you there. I think he's got a piece and a place on the Phoenix Suns, but it's more off the bench. He's a good scorer from out of NC State. Then obviously a power forward and center. We talked about Bender and Chris. Alex Len might be a decent bench player, but then again, he might want money to be a starter somewhere else. So I think right now they have at least the starting five kind of molded out once they draft a Jackson or Tatum if they're in that slot.
And I want to throw a wrench into that. And before I do, Bledsoe up to 2019 is when his contract
So they got
is
those two for
capiche.
2 more years.
I'm going to throw this out there. This is kind of a wrench in the plan. What if they get the first or the second overall pick? What if they do, based off of just lottery? I'm not saying they're going to lose more games, be less. What if they get the 1 or the 2? Do you then go, hey, you know what? Tatum and Jackson are still the guys we're picking from? Or do you look at it and go, hey, we can get Fultz or Ball?
I think it puts Josh Jackson in the mix. I think it
For
still,
a top 2 pick, you mean?
Yeah, I think it still leaves because I mean some people still think that Josh Jackson's the best player in the draft. I mean, you look at his athleticism and it's undeniable.
Oh, now we're talking athleticism with Josh Jackson.
Okay, Dave, I was drinking the Kool-Aid on Tatum. I don't want to go back. I was
know.
drinking the Kool-Aid on
And
Tatum.
then the Kansas game happened that night.
and
He was
then-
drinking the
yeah.
Kool-Aid on Jackson.
The
Too
kid's a
bad
freak.
Tatum didn't have another game to play.
The kid's a freak. But anyways, people think that Josh Jackson's the best player in the NBA draft. So I mean, I don't think it's too out of his range to say that he could be going number 1 overall, but I think it does put into a thorough wrench, like you said, to whether Ball, Fultz, or Jackson, and then especially with Bledsoe and Knight's contract, that could just get you more picks.
That's
Yeah.
what, to me, that's what it looks like. If this Phoenix Suns team, maybe with the ping pong balls, can get even up to 2. I'm not saying get 1, just get up to 2. Then you can go ahead and say, let's move some of these vets we have
long-term
because
contracts,
we're going to
yeah.
go with either a Fultz or a Ball, whoever falls to us, and we can trade Bledsoe and maybe Knight for some more picks.
I want to go back to that because I think it's an interesting conversation. But saying they stay where they are at that 3 range, you have Jackson, you have Tatum. We talked about him last week. Obviously, Devin Booker's a phenomenal scorer. We went through the whole list.
The thing honestly that concerns me with Dev, like one of the biggest things is like his ball handling because his assist to turnover ratio is about 1-to-1.
But he does have to create a lot. I mean,
And that's true.
He's
and
on a
that's
bad team. And a
when
young
you're
team.
the pure scorer on that team, you know, the problem is with such a young team, you're not always going to get the best looks available to you. And I think that that's one of the things by adding more weapons around, they're going to kind of fill that out. And I think that, like I said, we like Chris's development. We think that there's a lot of good pieces here, but he needs to be a little more careful with the ball. And again, it's kind of building out the rest of that game. So I'm leaning heavily towards like where I want him to be in the future is like, can he build a game kind of similar to like a DeMar DeRozan, or like where is he going to kind of like flush out? Like where's his top end going to be?
I was going to throw out a different name because I think not really similar body wise, but a different name where he might end up. Obviously, they're different different body types between these two players. But can he be a smaller Carmelo Anthony? Because I look at his scoring, I look at the high percentage that he can. He's a decent three-point shooter. I think that percentage of 36% can even rise up to where Melo shot like 42 in a season. I think that he can develop that three-point game. Do you think that he can be a Carmelo Anthony-like player? Because Carmelo was never like the LeBron James where he was the facilitator. He was always that scorer. Do you think that Devin Booker's like top end is a Carmelo Anthony-esque scorer, or a DeMar DeRozan, if you want to stay with that, a DeMar DeRozan-esque scorer?
I think that's probably a best case scenario for him. Yeah, I keep talking negatively about him, and it's not, you know, look, the dude can kill it. He's an absolute stud when it comes to scoring, but it's such a
You think his game's limited?
Yeah, exactly. I think that he excels so far in one area that the rest of his game kind of suffers because of it. But yeah, no, I think that's probably about the right range for him. So you can totally build around that, but having him as a focal point of a, you know, contending team, I don't know. I think that, you know, what Ricky brought up about the discussion of, you know, if you get a little interesting draft lottery picks, I think there could tend to be a little bit of a flip-flop.
So say you are the Phoenix Suns and you see Tyler Ulis, who I think we're high on, but do you think that he can be a starting guard?
He can't take over from Bledsoe right now. I think Bledsoe is still so valuable.
But say would you see Alonzo Ball or Markelle Fultz, and going back to Ricky's question? You would take. But all right, we see De'Aaron Fox and we see and we see Dennis Smith back there. Would you say that those two are even worth more than Tyler Ulis?
No, if I'm let's say,
so they don't have enough value over Jackson and Tatum, is what you're saying.
If the Suns drop, because now we're getting into the conversation of what if the ping pong balls hurt you negatively to where you fall back a pick or two.
I'm saying if we're talking about the Phoenix Suns and a point guard, we're talking about if Devin Booker becomes a Carmelo Anthony-like player. Carmelo thrives when he has a guy who can facilitate. He's thrived when he had a guy like Chauncey Billups. So wouldn't you want to pair that with a guy like Dennis Smith, who can create and he can pass? De'Aaron Fox obviously showing his ability to penetrate.
If you're looking for just a facilitator, I think Tyler Ulis can be your guy. You do not
but
then
is he
have
big
to
enough
look
to
out.
create like a Chauncey Billups created for Carmelo Anthony back in like 2009, 2010, 2008?
I think it's one of those things with Ulis. It's one where, look at IT. We talk about him all the time being, 5'9". You got to stick up for the 5'9" guys. Just because you're such and such height doesn't mean you can't do it. Ulis can ball. If I'm looking for facilitating only from the point guard position, then I'm saying, you know what, fine. I'm fine with Tyler Ulis. I think with me, let's say if it's Fultz or Ball, obviously you're not going to pass on one of those guys. You're going to take them just to take them, have them on the team.
You'll make it work one way or the other.
You'll make it work. But one of the things, let's say they don't get the top two. Let's say Tatum and Jackson are even off the board by the time they get there. Let's say there's a weird situation where they fall outside the top 5 because of the ping pong.
Well, give me a spot.
Well, let's say they're at 6,
Okay.
5 or 6. Everyone they want is gone. Before I even think about De'Aaron Fox and Dennis Smith, I would go Jonathan Isaac before that. I would fit that small forward role before I would go for a point guard because I have such a log jam at point guard.
I would not even think about Jonathan Isaac there just because then you have an unreal amount of size there. I think it's too much size because, yes, Isaac's super versatile where he can play the small forward position, but the fucking kid's 6'10". Then you have Bender who's 6'10", Marquise Chris who's 6'9", and Jonathan Isaac who's 6'10". Isaac can play the center. That's how big the kid is, and he's that versatile. I don't buy into going that. I think if we're talking about Jackson, the reason why we're saying him going to the Phoenix Suns makes sense because he's shown the ability to drive and he's been showing the ability to pass. Obviously,
Jackson and Tatum are the main two. I'm saying if there's a situation where Jackson and Tatum are gone and Ball and Fultz are gone.
But I think with the Bledsoe, if you're going young, and obviously they're going young, and maybe it is for the tank. If you have a guy like Bledsoe and you have a guy like Knight, especially two guys with injury histories, I don't see why you wouldn't try to move them. Get some picks so you can develop your team through the draft like you have been doing, and get a guard like a De'Aaron Fox and get a guard like a Dennis Smith, so you can help that help bring in a facilitator that has the size, that has the scoring that Tyler Ulis lacks. And I don't know how much Tyler Ulis can bring because in his limited minutes, 14 minutes.
He's a fantastic passer, but the scoring threat he is not.
And he's also not a guy that's going to rack up a ton of assists. He's got like 2.9 assists right now in 14 minutes.
Look at his last 10 games because that's the true picture of what he can do for you. And he's putting up 10 points, 7.4 assists.
Right, well,
when he is the guy the ball runs through, there. I'm just saying, when the ball runs through him, earlier this season we saw a little bit of issue with him coming in games being that, unfortunately, third or second point guard coming off the bench. So you saw him with different guys, and he didn't really have that role, but you put him in there next to Dev Booker, next to his best friend. Look, they have chemistry. You can't you can't buy that kind of chemistry. So I think that because they know each other so well, that is a huge benefit to have someone like him there with him.
I'm not saying kick Tyler Ulis off the team. I'm just saying maybe not have him be your starter.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I think De'Aaron Fox is a higher upside than Tyler Ulis. No offense to Tyler Ulis, but looking at De'Aaron Fox, that guy can score, that guy can drive, that guy can dish.
And he's just exploding during this tourney.
Dennis Smith as well. I see those guys as higher upside players that might fit well with Devin Booker. Obviously, the chemistry isn't there, but you can always develop chemistry.
But the thing that those two players do not have, that I'm going to go back to the top two.
Look at Fox right now with Monk.
Oh, I know.
That's and Devin Booker. I would say I don't know if he's a better Monk right now, but I would take Devin Booker over Malik Monk right now.
But the thing is, if I'm looking at Fox, and Smith compared to obviously the top two in Ball and Fultz and Ball, you look at that. Like I said, I'm going to take it. I'm going to make it work. With Fox and Dennis Smith, then you get into the discussion of, well, do I want to take this guy because I feel like he could be the BPA, or is it, we have a small forward need and there are guys that could fit this need better than just getting another point guard to create I think getting that point guard, if Ball and Fultz are off the board, would be creating a logjam in your backcourt.
But then again, Brandon Knight is pissed off at the Phoenix Suns front office. There was talks already about him being traded.
Bledsoe, before even the trade deadline, he was one of the names that was tossed out there and teased.
Then I kept calling him Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Bledsoe, obviously, his contract, like you said, ending in 2019. I mean, that's a guy that's contract is close to expiring. He's always been banged up. I mean, you can get rid of that logjam, and if you believe that a point guard is what you need to help your team, and that one of these point guards can help your team, I don't think it's too much of a reach to pick one. But let's go towards because obviously we talked about the possibility of Fultz and Ball. I don't think we need to talk about them for the Phoenix Suns because right now they're not in that situation. If they get in the situation, we'll obviously have that conversation. But there's Tatum and Jackson out there. Which one fits the Suns better in your mind? Because and not saying if they fall back, if they stay at that 3 spot, Fultz, Ball goes 1-2.
I'm torn.
Who would you rather go, Josh Jackson or Jason Tatum?
For me, if I'm going gut decision, Ricky, the time's running out. We got to make a pick. The name that would just spurt out of my mouth.
Hopefully the Suns would be more prepared.
Yeah. But for me, right now, because
Thank God we're not your GM.
I would sit there and go, I don't know which one I would want to take. And the name that would spit out is Tatum. And the reason being is, yes, you have Josh Jackson, who is athletic and he can drive, he can pass, he's got that IQ. But the thing with Tatum that I like is to me on the court, I see that's an NBA player. And to me, looking at defense, maybe defense is something the Celtics need to go for. Not necessarily saying
Josh Jackson's a better defender.
Let's just add some. Yeah, but with Josh Jackson, are we focusing on his defense or are we focusing on his offense?
Well, that's the thing. He's a good all-around player.
We're going to focus on his athleticism and the thing that
Which
Josh
helps
Jackson,
him become a good defender and a good...
Let me get to it. Let me get to it. The one thing that Josh Jackson is that Tatum is not is aggressive. And that's the biggest knock with me when it comes to that. I'm going to go with the non-aggressive player, the guy who is not going to be in foul trouble that much often because of the aggressiveness. And I'm going to go with Tatum.
That's actually the reason why I would go with Jackson, because I look at Devin Booker and I wouldn't say he's hesitant or he doesn't. I just see him and I see him as more of a patient player, and I see him line up with Tatum like that. So pairing those two players, it might create a stagnant offense where if you have a guy like Josh Jackson, it's balls to the wall. I'm going to attack the rim. I'm going to attack it like it's nobody's business, both offensively and defensively. He's going to attack the ball and he's going to try to steal it, and he's trying to, he's an aggressive player, and that's what I like pairing up against a guy who in Devin Booker is kind of like that Carmelo Anthony, who's more of a passive player. You see a guy like J.R. Smith next to Carmelo Anthony. J.R. Smith thrives because he's that aggressive player.
Right.
I like that idea of bringing in Josh Jackson because of his aggressiveness. I think that's the best part is where you have Devin Booker completely athletic. I mean, the kid's athletic, but you don't really see his athleticism
translate into...
Well, that's the reason why he's not succeeding. His athleticism isn't why Devin Booker succeeds, just because he's a phenomenal scorer.
Right.
Josh Jackson is why he succeeds, his athleticism. So I think you got to go with that yin-yang of a player who's a phenomenal scorer because he just has that ability, where you have Josh Jackson who just has this ability to be completely athletic.
The one thing I'm going to throw out there, and this is the thing that's different between Kansas and Duke, is, to me, if you're talking about the Kansas Jayhawks, Josh Jackson to me is not when you say give me the best player, I'm not talking athleticism, I'm not talking raw talent, just overall, who's the best player on that team? And I'm not talking draft size, I'm saying Frank Mason. He's the number one guy.
I would say Luke Kennard's the best player.
He's the one that leads that team. Yeah, Luke Kennard, you might say, is the number one at Duke, but the thing with Duke is I feel like it's a little bit more of a mixture, and I feel like that could be better for the Suns, and it's one of those things where Tatum can come in, be the guy who drives, doesn't have that three-point shot, and then you take a little bit of pressure off of Tyler Ulis, who you're saying, well, can he be the assist guy? Well, now he doesn't. It could be him and Tatum, and Booker can kind of be I can get the ball, I can drive, or I have that three-point shot. I'm the killer from beyond the arc.
And Dave, I want to get you in here because obviously I think that's a great point from Ricky, and I think the one thing too, at least for Duke, is that you do have more of I would say that with Josh Jackson, that's what I meant. With Josh Jackson, kind of being a leader, because you said Frank Mason's more of a leader on Kansas.
Well, to me, it's like, who am I putting the ball in, like with a last second shot? I would go definitely Frank Mason over Josh Jackson. If it's Kennard or Tatum, I might take Tatum over Kennard, even though you can pick Kennard as well.
Josh Jackson has shown that he can step up in big games, and that was really shown in the game at Allen Fieldhouse against Baylor. He stepped up big in that game, especially in the second half. And I think that when you have a senior player like Frank Mason, who's a Naismith Player of the Year candidate, I think it's tough to say, all right, the guy that's been here for 4 years, the guy that is our leader, who has the experience, I think it's tough to go away from him, where Kennard and Tatum, they only have that 1 year difference of being a sophomore or freshman. I think it's tough to say that, but we have seen Josh Jackson step up. I understand where you're coming from with Tatum and Kennard there. But Dave, in this whole Jackson Tatum situation, where do you fall that fits best for the Suns? Are you going to go with the smoothness that Ricky's talking about with Tatum, or are you going to go with the aggressiveness that I liked in Jackson and pairing that with Booker?
I'm going heavily towards Jackson. I think he's a better fit for this team, and I think that what he brings us, again, it's personally, I take highest upside. You're a Suns team who you're in the middle of a rebuild. You have a lot of young talent that you've piled in of top-level picks across the board on your team at this point. So what you really want to do is take the best player available, best, highest top end, and I think that Josh Jackson offers you a little bit more than Jason Tatum does. I love Tatum's shot. It's smooth. Like, I know we can talk about that all day, but like Josh Jackson just across the board fills it out for me, and with this starting lineup of going young, I honestly see him and Devin being a great 1-2 punch, and I think that honestly, like they are mean, they're athletic down low, and there is a bright future. I
want to do two more things. All right. First off, going off of like the Tatum, Isaac thing that you've mentioned as well, position needs for the Suns. First off, how would you rank it? Would you go small forward? Then I think you've brought up center as well, Ricky, center and point guard. How would you rank the top three position needs for the Suns right now? Because I think shooting guard, I think we can agree is last on that that list, right?
That's safe.
I think shooting guard, and right now, based off of what's on the roster,
you could say
point guard too.
I was going to say power forward, just because you have you have Bender and Chris.
Really, then the only positions that I mentioned earlier are
it's
small
your
forward and center.
It's your rankings. How would you go 1, 2, 3?
If I'm using all 5 positions, I'm going small forward. My top 3 would be small forward, center, and then maybe guard. Like not necessarily point, not necessarily shooting, maybe more shooting than guard, but with that third one, it's like, fuck it, just take a guard at that point.
But with that, I mean, why would you take a shooting guard when you have Devin Booker as your starting point?
I'm saying that's why it's number 3. Like, at first I'm tackling the small forward need. Then maybe in the second round, if there's a big man that I like, I'd go more towards the big man to fill out that center and small forward role.
And the other thing I want to bring up, kind of building off that, so you would go Tatum, Jackson, and then who's that third player? Say Fultz and Ball's off the board, at least at that third spot.
At 5?
At that third spot. No, if they're at the 3 spot, Jackson, Tatum, and who would be the third guy that you throw in there, just to have a conversation?
I would say it'd be between the small forward. It would either be between the small forwards of just Jackson, Tatum, and Isaac, or it would be Jackson, Tatum, and Monk. Okay. We would have one of those two discussions.
I think Monk would be a weird pairing with, but I understand where you're coming from, at least, because you mentioned guard, and he is another scorer. And then Dave, would you asking the same question with position wise, how would you rate that? Would you differ from Ricky, or do you agree with?
I'm a little slightly different, because I do think obviously small forward is the key they need to knock down with this first pick. But I'm gonna just go take it a little bit outside the box here, because I think that not only do they have a top 3 pick in the first and second, they still have their second round pick, but I think they're going to move one of their guards, probably Brennan Knight, for a later first maybe, or probably like a late first.
Whatever
would
they
be
can
viable.
confirm,
Yeah, so I think they can honestly fill out center. I don't know, like you've got okay talent there. The problem is the impact of a center in the NBA, and we're talking about how they have athletic bigs already who can kind of cover that spot, and I'm not super worried about having a legit backup or a legit starting center. So I'm all for going out and going small forward. A backup shooting guard is one thing. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like someone who can kind of combo between small forward and shooting guard would be a great pickup.
So you agree with Ricky there?
And just honestly, you just go between small forward and then a combo. Like, you don't need much else, but I know there's a lot of hate around Alex Len already, so like a center, if you want to grab someone in the second round and just give them a shot to try it out, why not? But honestly, I think that they are going to be able to pick up a couple guys, and even like later in this draft, this is one of the most stacked drafts we've talked about in a long time. So you're going to see talent who should be first round talent in other years fall back in at second. So I think there's good value if they want to trade in some existing contracts for some future draft picks.
And you would rank it Jackson, Tatum, and would you go Isaac as well because of his versatility?
No, I would honestly go. I'm taking Jackson at 3. Like, there's no discussion there.
I'm saying make a discussion.
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
nope.
Dave. Thanks for being a part of the podcast.
Can I throw one center out there as maybe that second rounder? Do you, if he's there in the second round, do you maybe look at maybe a Karnowski, or if Zach Collins comes out after his freshman year, to maybe be a player that the Suns look at?
I don't think Zach Collins would be there in the second round. I think he's going to be a first rounder.
No, he would be a late first rounder. But if Karnowski's there in the second round, I know he's not your typical big man, but I like what I see from the Polish center.
I agree with it. I like what I see with him, but I think he's more of a later second round. I just
in the second.
With that Suns team, I think you need the athleticism that you bring, that you see in Chris and that you see in with Tyson Chandler, just the size. I don't see the size of Karnowski, like the length. I want like a bigger center there in Phoenix because Devin Booker's 6'6". Tyler Ulis, if he's your point guard, I think you feel like you need more size there. So I would rather go with someone who's bigger than Karnowski. I think Collins, though, I think he's 7 feet tall. I think I would go with Collins there. Just going on position rankings, and I got one more final question for you guys. I would go small forward. I would go point guard because I don't trust. I think Bledsoe and Knight are good as gone. And then I would probably go and end up going with a center. And then I would probably say Jackson. I would say Jackson, Fox, and then Tatum because I think adding a guy like Fox who can create and penetrate and score like he can, I think pairing that with a guy like Devin Booker is too good to pass up.
Yeah, he's one of the highest risers throughout his tourney and now the March Madness tourney. It's awesome to watch him go. The thing though is like guys like Knight and Bledsoe both are on relatively good contracts, and that's what's it could value one way or the other because it's like look, you get Bledsoe for 2 more years under $15 million. That's got some value to it because he's across the board going to help your team out. So I don't know if I want to move on from him, but same time, other teams out there who think they're a point guard away,
Detroit Pistons.
That would be an incredible value.
Detroit Pistons. I was having trouble finding a mock for the Pistons at 14. Trade the 14th pick and get Eric Bledsoe. But
incredible value.
Final question I have for you guys. You like Tatum, so you'd say you draft Tatum at 3.
Yeah.
You like Jackson at 3.
No doubt. Yep.
Would Jackson or Bledsoe or Chris or Bender be the star or the focal point? If you draft one of these players, would Booker still stay the star? Would it be Bender or Chris, or would it be Jackson or Tatum? With whoever you're drafting, who would be the star player that you are building around?
I would say that the guy on the poster would probably be Devin Booker, but I would say I'd go more of a team aspect with it, where it's kind of like I want to use the Warrior kind of mold of course, I'm not saying that Devin Booker is going to be the star power of Steph Curry, but Steph Curry's the guy we all look at, but the Warriors are a team. That's what the Suns need to do, be a team of the young kids, and Devin Booker would be the face of them.
Dave, where are you kind of? Would Josh Jackson, Booker, or are you going with the team?
I think I'm leaning towards Josh Jackson being the face, even though it's like I could see Devin Booker because he is that scorer. That is what people love to see in the NBA.
He seems like a quiet kid, though.
Exactly, and that's why I think like I think that Jackson would be awesome, but honestly, I like the way teams are building. Like, not to derail this too much, but like look at teams like the Bucks who have their multi-man core. You have like the Timberwolves who have theirs. You have all of these teams who are rebuilding. Philly. I don't want to go there because they're just
if they're healthy.
Let's just hope all of this.
But the whole thing is
let's just hope it just leads to a more competitive
NBA. You put together
NBA.
3 guys on that core, and I think the team honestly might win out because that is the scariest thing. Is like when you have 3 guys who are all under 24 or something. Your future's good.
And that's the thing with that, Ricky, you mentioned, building more competitive NBA.
I just hope it leads to that.
They're building big threes through the draft, and then also with the CBA.
I hope it leads to that.
Yeah, with the CBA, it's going to help.
Stay.
It's going to help them stay. I mean, I don't know how the cap exactly is going to work. I'm not a cap genius, but still, it's going to help them stay, which might help lead to a competitive.
Neither of us are accountants, so we'll leave that for the accountants and finance majors.
The one thing, it might be difficult to have Josh Jackson be your lead PR guy, especially with the stuff that's going on with him.
Oh, it's one thing.
I'm just saying,
I
Dave.
wouldn't say it's just one thing,
Dave,
but we'll see.
Dave,
well, so far only one thing's come out.
Hey,
it's a pretty big red flag for me.
Not getting the discussion. I'm just saying, it was making a joke. Jesus Christ. But anyways, I don't know why we were talking about that was a long talk about the Phoenix Suns right there.
It was
a good talk. Tell us who you think should be the star in Phoenix and who they should draft if they do stay at that 3rd position. Thank you. Oh, shit. Oh, it's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.